Hi, I'm Julia Hankins, and I work with other kids yoga teachers to help them feel more confident and more competent as they share yoga and other wellbeing strategies with children. And today I wanted to talk about how to keep things fresh when you've been teaching children for a long time. So perhaps you've been teaching the same group of children for a number of months or even a number of years. It can start to feel a little bit stagnant, a little bit dry, and you might start to wonder how you can keep things fresh. So it can feel like a real blessing, can't it, when we teach children for a long time, because they know you well, you know them well, you know the place that you're working well, and you're obviously doing something right to keep the children coming back to you or to keep the school from employing you year on year. But sometimes it can be a challenge to make things feel fresh for yourself and for the children. And so I've certainly felt this way before, and I wanted to share with you just some thoughts on that, in case it's something that you experience too. So our brains really crave novelty. Our brains want to learn new things all the time. They're always seeking what's new and what's exciting. But our nervous system needs familiarity and needs to know that we are safe. And so I sometimes feel like teaching the same children time and time again is this really delicate balance between those two aspects, novelty and familiarity. And that is where the magic happens. So, here are some things that I do in my own classes to help me feel fresh and the children still feel excited by the classes that I deliver. And so the first thing is prop use. So I like to really vary the props that I use regularly, and I try to use a different prop every week, and then I rotate between them. So I don't need millions and millions of different props. I'm not always buying new ones, but I'm rotating between the ones that I have. It's a bit like like toy rotation as an idea of when you're a parent, not overwhelming the children with too many toys, but having out some and for a little while and then putting them away. It's the same kind of idea of that. So it means the children get familiar with the props, but they're not bored of them. So, for example, if you have the scarves out every single week, they stop being so special. And this way, the children get excited by the return of their old favourites. So, for example, this week in my classes, I'll be using soft toys, and it's been quite a few weeks that we haven't used the soft toys. So I know the kids are going to be really over the moon because they haven't used them for a while, and they're like old friends, and the children will be really pleased to see them. So again, you don't need lots and lots of props for this to work. I rely on a trusty bank of just a few props that I use again and again and rotate between them. And so I try to add a little bit of variety each time I use them by either repeating and extending some activities that I've used before with them, or getting creative about how I use them and using them a different way. And if you're curious about what my favourite props are and how I use them, you can get my free guide called Top of the Props. And in that, there's my favourite props that I use and how I use them. You might also find the video useful called Top Prop Tips, and that's all about how to use props. How I use them best in my classes. That's a free video. Or if you want to dive deeper and really use the props in your lessons to engage and excite and extend the learning in your lessons, then check out the e-course Props Like a Pro. This will be going up in price soon because I'm adding to and extending that e-course. So if you feel like at some point this is going to be useful to you, make sure you buy it now before the price goes up. So that's Props Like a Pro, and I'll include the link below. So another thing that I like to do is mix things up and how the room is. So I usually like to teach in a circle, but I also find it really fun to just mix that up sometimes. And the change of the layout adds an extra layer of novelty into it, making things feel different and fresh and exciting. And it's a bit like changing the furniture in your home. You know what it feels like when you move the sofa around and you're like, oh wow, it looks really different, and it feels really exciting, and nothing really has changed, just the layout. and it's surprising what a difference that can make. So you might like to try, if you're not normally teaching in a circle, try teaching in a circle. If you normally do, you may like trying it in rows horizontally, or also rows vertically can be fun too, where they're like the children are facing each other. That can be a fun, different way of doing it. You might try working in small groups where you have like a group of mats over in each area, or you might try teaching in a half circle or like a horseshoe. And if you change nothing else in your lesson, just simply arranging the mats in a different way can feel really exciting to the children. It really doesn't take much. And if you're normally in a hall one way, like one way round, maybe try being in the hall the other way round, just getting a different perspective for both you and the children. Another thing that you might like to try is trying out different content. So I always say that having a consistent structure is really important in your lessons, but it can be fun to still mix this up within this. So I would always start and end in the same way, as this helps children to orient themselves in the lesson. But changing things within the lesson can make things feel special. So you might like to try setting up an obstacle course. If that's something you're interested in, you could try the freebie, which is my obstacle course. You can just print and use it. And there's a little video as well about using an obstacle course in your lessons. I'll link that below as well. You might like to try having a theme for your lesson if you don't normally theme it. I've also got a video about theming lessons, so you might find that useful. Or you might try mixing up the way that you teach. So if you usually use a story in your lessons, maybe try without a story. Or if you usually don't use a story, maybe try exploring what it feels like to use a story as a basis for a lesson, just for a one-off. It might not work and it might all end in chaos, but then again, you might find a new way of doing things and find something that really works for you that you can weave in and do regularly. Another thing that I would say is to ask the children in your classes, because they're so creative and they really love to be involved. Asking the children what they would like to do in more of your classes. What would they like to do more of? What are their ideas of games to play, or themes that they might be interested in? Or maybe there's a prop that you used a long time ago that they'd like to see again. Maybe in your mind it wasn't very practical, or you didn't really enjoy it, but maybe the kids really did and you just want to try that again. Find out what the children are interested in and use it to fire your imagination. So those are my main ideas, which is thinking about how you use your props and using them effectively and mixing them up, mixing up the layout and the way that your room is laid out, trying out different content and teaching in a different way, and asking the children for their own input and their ideas. If you're looking for resources and training to support you in all of your classes, you might find Captivate with Cards a really useful reference. And within that e-course, you'll receive a route way through 52 poses. Each of them have information on the back of them with lots of ideas and activities and fun things to do with each pose. And it really is the only resource that I use in every single lesson that I teach. And it's the basis of all of my teaching. It's a really comprehensive training that talks to you about how you can have this route way through poses for you to teach. And it explains how you could use these postcards in all of your classes, whether they're extracurricular clubs, whether they're family workshops, whether they're within the school day lessons. It's a really useful resource. You get all of the postcards, but you also get pose banks. So they're like where you have multiple poses on one card that you can use, and it tells you how to use them too. So hopefully you found this video useful, and if you have any questions, don't forget to message me either on here, or you can email me, julia@juliahankins.co.uk. I reply to all of the emails that I receive, and I may use your questions for a video here. I hope you find that useful, and don't forget to like and subscribe and click the bell for future notifications.